The year was 1520. Ferdinand Magellan, the famed explorer leading the first voyage around the world, had seen many strange things, but nothing prepared his crew for what they found on the shores of a cold, desolate land at the bottom of the world. There, standing alone on a beach, was something impossible, something enormous, a giant. Welcome back to Legends May Live, where we explore the strange, the mysterious, and the downright eerie. I'm Drew, and today we're looking for giants. So sit back, get comfortable, and let's dive in. The men aboard Magellan's ships had been at sea for months. They were battered by storms, half-starved, and desperate for land. As the southern tip of what we now call Argentina began to come into view in the horizon, their relief and excitement exploded. They could finally get off the ship, forage for some food, and feel the earth beneath their feet again. But as the ship approached the shore, their relief turned to confusion, then fear and amazement, because as they scanned the coastline, they saw it. A humanoid figure, taller than any man they had ever seen, walking along the shore. It moved strangely, almost ritualistically. It was throwing sand over its head and lifting its arms to the sky. When the ship drew closer, they could see that though this thing was enormous, it was in fact a man. His body was covered in animal skin, and as he walked, his footprints in the wet sand were massive. This was no ordinary man. He was a giant. The crew made sure to keep an eye on this giant while they docked the ship and began to come off onto the beach. Magellan, ever the strategist, ordered his men to approach. So cautiously and slowly, with weapons lowered, but ready, they approached. The giant didn't run. In fact, as the sailors got closer, it smiled. It spoke, but his words were unintelligible. So instead he gestured wildly, pointing toward the land behind him. He seemed friendly. When the sailors realized he wasn't immediately hostile, they decided to embrace his kindness. They offered him food as a gesture of friendship, as well as an old mirror one of the sailors had on board. And when the giant looked into the mirror, he recoiled, startled at first. Then it was like he realized the reflection was his own, and he laughed. Over the following weeks, Magellan's men met more and more of these giants, an entire tribe all standing between 7 and 10 feet tall. They were all clothed in heavy animal skin, and their faces were painted in deep, earthy pigments. They were strong, broad-shouldered, and they moved with the confidence of hunters. And yet, they seemed just as fascinated with Magellan's crew as the crew was with them. The two groups traded food and small trinkets. The giants were fascinated by the Europeans' beards, and they liked to reach out and touch their faces. It was the beginning of a warm friendship. But Magellan had other ideas. Magellan saw something more than just a friendly encounter. He saw an opportunity. If he could bring one of these giants back to Spain, he would shock the world. His name would be etched into history as the man who discovered an unknown race of titans. And so, he made a decision. He would take a giant captive before escaping into the sea. So Magellan prepared a plan for his crew. Now he and his crew had never seen where these giants lived, whether in huts, caves, or some other housing. The crew stayed close to the shore, and the giants were often seen coming and going from inland. So when two giants made their way onto the shore, the crew started out the day with their usual friendly exchanges. They offered the giants some more food and trinkets, to which the giants accepted with great thanks. Then the crew gestured for the giants to follow them, showing that they intended to gift them with more food and more of these unusual modern instruments that the tribe had enjoyed seeing the Europeans use. Once the two large men were aboard, the crew lured them over to where they wanted them, and then all at once they swarmed and shackled these behemoths of men. The moment the chains clicked into place, the mood changed. The giants realized what had happened. They knew that they had been betrayed. They roared in protest, their deep voices shaking the very timbers of the ship. They pulled at their enormous chains. They were even stronger than the crew had imagined. Their strength was so great that the crew was afraid for a moment that they might actually break free. The ship was in chaos as they struggled against the chains, even rocking the entire vessel. But no matter how hard they fought, they couldn't escape. The betrayal was complete. The giants, once free, proud, and towering figures on the land, were now prisoners to men half their size, and their time was running out. The ship launched back into sea, and days passed, turning into weeks. The giants had stopped struggling. Confined to their chains, they began to weaken. They refused to eat, and it's unclear if it was out of pride, defiance, depression, or if perhaps they caught some sickness from the Europeans, as is often the case when introducing one new civilization to another. Either way, their bodies, once powerful, began to waste away, and then the first one passed, and then the next. But here's the part that makes this whole encounter a mystery, or a legend rather than a well-documented fact in history. If these giants were real, where are their bones? No remains were ever recovered. No skeletons, no artifacts, no proof. Some say that they were buried at sea, their bodies tossed overboard to prevent whatever disease that killed them from killing the crew. Others believe that the giants never existed at all, that Magellan's crew exaggerated the size of the Telechi people, a tribe known for their tall stature. But there's another theory, a darker one. What if the giants did make it back to Spain? What if their existence threatened the worldview of the Catholic Church? The Bible speaks of the Nephilim, a race of giants who walked the earth before the Great Flood. If Magellan had found proof of their existence, would the Church have allowed the knowledge to spread that they're still walking among us? Some believe that the remains were quietly confiscated, either by the Spanish crown or the Vatican, hidden. Then armies were sent back to wipe out the remaining giants, erasing them from history to protect the people from fear and to protect their own power. Because if the world knew that a race of giants had once existed, what else might be out there? So, did Magellan's men really encounter a lost race of giants? Was it a misunderstanding? A legend born from half-starved sailors, awed from the sight of a tall indigenous tribe? Or was it something more? The truth may be never known for sure, but the mystery of the Patagonian giants remains centuries later, a secret buried beneath the waves. And if it was covered up, who else knows the truth? That's it for today's episode of Legends May Live. If you enjoyed today's story, please be sure to like, follow, and send to a friend who loves a mysterious story. Until next time, keep your eyes open and keep a lookout, because it turns out legends may live.